Okay, welcome to this episode. This episode is a bit weird. Like we often film our podcast in the office, but today we're doing it over Zoom because the country is going on what I call lax lockdown. Essentially, right now what we have is a movement control order where everyone is asked to stay at home so that we're not spreading the coronavirus COVID-19 around. So I have a guy who is an expert when it comes to consulting businesses and helping them not only raise fund, but also helping them in terms of strategies and growing their businesses as well. And this guy literally lives 15 minutes away from me, and I couldn't interview him in person because we have this stay-at-home order, which is a bit messed up. But instead of delaying all these strategies and tactics that you should be learning right now, we thought, we're going to make it happen with technology. Today, we have Mr. Jonathan Quek. Okay, so Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit so that the people that are watching this or listening to this, they get a little bit of an idea who you are, your background, so on and so forth.
Sure. Thank you so much, Desmond, for having me here in Desmond's talk show. First of all, my name is Jonathan Quek. I run this business called Owner Circle. We run a business academy where we train entrepreneurs, SME owners to achieve massive transformational growth in their business. At the same time, I also run a private investment fund where I also invest into businesses where I help to grow them from small to big. And recently, we've been very busy because right now, a lot of businesses are not talking so much about growing, but they're talking about how do you even survive in this situation. So the past 1 week has been truly crazy for us because we've been analyzing tools. We've been not looking only into how to protect yourself at this point of time, but also how to pivot and how to also take advantage to profit from this crisis. So I'll be very happy to be able to share with your crowd here, your listeners, on some of the tools that we have came about over the past 1 week.
Amazing. So just to be clear, we want to set the context right. Right now, today is March 24th, and this is the second week of Malaysia's movement control order. Again, as I mentioned, business premises are not allowed to open unless they're essential services like grocery, petrol stations, so on and so forth. But this is already creating a lot of ripple effect, negative ripple effect, I would say, to a lot of businesses. I always believe that small business is the backbone of the economy because if you look at Malaysia's GDP, at least 60 to 70% of the contribution comes from small, medium-sized businesses. And if small businesses collapse, not only the country collapse, but also unemployment is going to go up. And when unemployment goes up, social issues are going to happen where people are going to rob, people are going to do crimes, so on and so forth. So today, I want to discuss a little bit, Jonathan, because let's talk about, what are some of the strategies that businesses right now, they can implement to be able to survive through this crisis situation where they cannot, obviously have customers go into their shop, what they can do right now.
Well, in my view, at this point of time, there's three key priorities for every business owners. I put it into the three Ps. The first priority right now will be to protect your business first. Before we talk about how do you even strategize to bring in money, I think every business owner should look into their cash flow. Many business owners are always thinking of how to grow, but never have any businesses who think of how to survive a crisis like this. A black swan is what we are talking about here with coronavirus. And look into your cash flow because a lot of people look into their P&L for the past 3 years and then they roughly get a gauge of how much they're spending a month, but that's completely wrong. Look at your cash flow first. And the second thing is then only look into how do you pivot. And the third thing is you look into how to profit. And as your question is more about how do you strategize at this point of time, my advice right now is look into a few areas. Your strategy really depends on two things. Your strategy depends on how much cash do you have on hand. Because if your cash reserve is low, at this point of time, you probably got to do things which is totally out of your entire business strategy, totally out of your branding guideline. You got to innovate like crazy. And your goal, you only have one goal. Your goal is to survive. So your goal is to bring in the money. So in my opinion, if your cash flow, your cash reserve is low, three things that you got to do. First thing is you got to innovate like crazy, sell like crazy, go online. You got to sell things that you don't even sell it in your business that doesn't align with you, but you just want to do one thing, bringing the cash first. And then the second thing you got to understand is you got to learn to let go. Now, when it comes to this word crisis, I understand this word not only mentally, but also emotionally because I've once built a business where our business has grown to 100 mil annual revenue, and then it went to zero within a year. And at the point of time, one of my biggest lesson there was, I always believe in having your people first. And of course, I continued having my people, even though the business model didn't work anymore. And what happened was, at one point of time when we were continue burning so much money, I started selling assets in order for me to feed them. And I even had them to take very low salaries. Of course, they weren't happy with taking low salaries. And I wasn't happy either that I have to sell my assets. But what happened was, towards the end, I had to let them go anyway because the business didn't make sense anymore. And the worst thing is I had no assets. And I start all over from ground zero. So I think the second thing, if your cash reserve at this point is low, you got to really accept the truth that at this point of time, even though some of them have been very faithful and loyal with you, if you got to let go, you got to let go. You got to learn to let go. And the third thing is start to look into financing assistance. This is where starting to look into loans, start to look into different types of loans, not only personal loans, but also balancing of your credit cards to get a lower interest rate. Start looking into business loans, start looking into deferment of loans. And that's what is the main key here. However, if your cash reserve is high, your strategy will be completely different. At this point of time, what you want to do is you want to advertise like crazy. You want to gather leads like crazy. Because at this point of time, when everyone is on their smartphone every single day, what you want to do is you will make sure that you get them to do business with you. They may not pay you yet, but you want to get them to build a relationship with you, build a trust with you, because they may not do business with you right now, but they might do business with you later. And right now, the key thing is this: the cost of acquisition is very, very, very low. So if you are constantly providing value and content out there, at this point of time, your cost of acquisition is so low that you can get a lot of database, which you will be able to provide them your core offer later on once the crisis is over. The second strategy for me, if your cash reserve is high, is this is time for you to acquire. Acquisition is the key right now because there'll be many businesses that will be dying. Some of these businesses are good businesses. Unfortunately, the business owner may not have very good cash flow management. So they have good talents, they have good customer base, but they don't have enough cash to tahan. They don't have enough cash to tie through this difficult period. So what you want to do is, this is the time you may be able to go in and strike a deal to acquire the business. And when you acquire the business, you're acquiring the talents, you're acquiring the customer base. And once business is back as usual, this is where you'll be able to reap your profits. You'll be making back your ROI in a very short period of time. And the third thing, if your business is, if you have a lot of cash reserve, in my opinion, you still should access to loans because the cost of financing right now is so low. This is the time, to me, anything that's below 4%, I'm going to borrow because cash is king right now. We don't know, one thing we don't know about this crisis, we don't know how long it will last. Even though we talk about China being better right now, Wuhan said that they have 0 new cases, but even businesses in Beijing are saying that they do foresee that this will extend beyond June or July. So in Malaysia, unfortunately, our government is not so effective. If China takes 6 months to solve this crisis, I foresee that we may even take longer.
Right, right. So I actually am a big advocate of your strategies. If they have a lot of cash, it's time to do lead gen right now. Sell something cheap, even if $1, just to get them into the database and then build relationship with them. When the economy is good, then only you can offer your core offer to them. I agree with that. I also agree with the loan situation. There's too many small business owners. I'm sure you have find this to be true as well. But in Malaysia, what's the issue is that a lot of small business owners, their mindset is that I do not want to touch debt. I only want to run a cash-based business, right? So I've been an advocate. I've been telling them, listen, the cash is cheap right now. Think of it like you're buying a lump sum of money for very little money that you pay every year that is tax deductible in the form of interest. But many of them are still very stubborn. I'm calling a few of the clients and friends that I know right now, they're struggling. I say, hey, listen, the government is giving away 3.75% interest rate for their money, for a huge financial assistance. And in America, it's 0% interest rate, which is even more insane. But there are some business owners, their mentality is just that, I can't do this, I can't take that. Jonathan, this is gonna be a really unorthodox question. So what do you think you can do to change that mindset, that is good in this particular time right now?
I think a lot of business owners don't understand this. They don't understand the whole concept of money. So these guys who say that they don't want to borrow money is because when they grow up, their parents say don't borrow other people's money. right? Borrowing money is bad. Owing money is bad. But you have to remember, in a time of crisis like this, when US is going to interest rate zero, it means one thing. Yesterday, Trump has announced that quantitative easing will be unlimited. So what does it mean by quantitative easing unlimited is you're going to print money like crazy. And when you print money like crazy, what's going to happen is the value of money is going to go down anyway. So guys, in times like this, if you continue holding on to your cash, the value of your cash is going to go lower and lower and lower, even faster than at an unprecedented rate. You got to understand that money is really a figurative value. And at this point of time, when the cost of, when there's abundance of money out there, what you want to know is you want to learn how to leverage. So Desmond did a video recently on leverage. The key here is knowing how to leverage on good debt, where how do I even take a loan paying an interest of 3.75, and even if I put into an investment that can give me 5%, I'm already making 1.25% return, right? And the rich never use their own money to grow businesses. The rich always look at how do you use other people's money to grow a business. So if at this point of time you're still saying that you don't want to borrow money, you got to be crazy. If you're borrowing money to buy a Lamborghini right now, I say you're crazy. But but if you're borrowing money right now to invest, I think this is one of the most crucial things anyone must do right now.
Yeah, I think that the great thing about the money being so cheap is that if you look at really valuable and good type of businesses that you can acquire, as you mentioned, there are a lot of businesses right now that are struggling, not because the business model is bad, but because maybe, for example, it could be a restaurant and their restaurant is highly dependent on people walking into their shop, right? And during this situation right now, customers cannot go into their shop and hence their business are dying and they're struggling. That doesn't mean that it's a bad business, because whether you like it or not, this quarantine lockdown situation is going to be over and then it's going to be back to normal. So it's a good time to make an offer right now when the company owners or business owners are a little bit more desperate, a little bit more motivated. Now you might be thinking, I don't have the money to go buy these businesses. Two things I can share here. Maybe Jonathan, you can chime in a bit later. One is that you can buy a lot of time the struggling businesses for nothing. You can do some sort of merger, right? If your companies are very similar, you can do some sort of merger. You can do some sort of share swap. There's a lot of things you can do, barter services, many types of things. Money doesn't have to exchange hands when it comes to acquiring a business. Second is that what you could do is you could go out there and take the loan money. I'm not asking you to like spend the entire loan money because you definitely need some reserves. Let's say you borrow $1 million, you take out 200,000 and go acquire a company. Now, if the company itself can generate more than 200,000 in revenue a year, in my opinion, that's pretty decent business already. Especially if it has a good synergy with your business, it's one of the supplier or it's one of the consumer or customer, it will be fantastic. So let's talk about the M&A side of things, Jonathan. Like, I know a lot of people, especially business owners, they have never thought about acquiring another business. To them, business means building one shop at a time and then growing it one shop at a time, right? So let's talk about acquiring businesses in these times right now. What would you do? What would you recommend the audience to do?
Well, at this point of time, I have not acquired any businesses. So I'm not sure if I'm in the best position to talk about this. But what I would like to share is at this point of time, every business owner, you should look at three things. Number one is increase. How do you increase your reserve? How do you increase your credit limit with the bank? How do you increase, like what you're saying, sell $1 stuff? How do you increase your vouchers or pre-orders? Get customers in first. And then later on, what you also want to look into increasing is partnerships. At this point of time, I've not looked into M&As as yet. I think it's still too early for that. But I do foresee that in time to come, that might be something we'll be looking into because a lot of businesses will be seeking for help. And if government is not coming up with a stimulus package, and if we can help and we can buy it cheap and flip it later on, even better. The second thing we have to look into is decreasing. How do you decrease pay? How do you decrease your inventory? How do you even decrease your rental?
Right.
And decrease your suppliers' payment. And if you can't decrease, you probably want to delay, which is the third thing I look into. At this point of time, I'm looking into getting businesses to strike profitable partnerships first. Before you do an M&A, before you should acquire the person's share, I like to go into a profitable partnership where work together and court each other first, but with an options to buy. With options to buy means we have options agreement where when things hits a certain milestone and when things get even better, that's where you can acquire the business
Right.
So rather than acquiring it now, and we take the 100% risk of the business, we go into options agreement first, right? Let me help you first. And once you buy through this period, you must then let me buy. So it
Right.
decreases my risk. And then at the same time, it also gives me the upside to be able to acquire when I can.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of the work should be done now. What I'm doing right now is
Yeah.
I am consulting many businesses at this particular moment, and we are striking something of that sort where we're telling them that if we hit the milestone that, let's say the cash flow right now is 50,000, and we are able to get them back to 100,000, that will allow us an option to buy the company share, a percentage of it at a certain price point per share. So
Yep.
while you cannot buy right now because a lot of the firms, a lot of the professionals are not open right now, they're working from home, they're not productive at all. So, but you can do the work right now, and you can do the sweat equity right now and help these businesses go online. For example, one of the things that we're doing is we're just setting up shops for them online, and we're just telling them to use things like Zoom. Hey, you know, if you're a dance studio teacher, why not use Zoom right now to continue the thing? Tell them that don't sit at home and watch Netflix and get fat the whole day. In fact, use Zoom and exercise together on Zoom, right? And they're selling little tickets. Not a lot of money, as we said, because now people are very scared of spending a lot of money. In times like this, I feel like people, their goal is to conserve, restrict money going out. So it's not a good idea to sell very, very, very big ticket stuff right now, I believe. I believe it's better to just gain the trust of the customers through smaller ticket stuff, as you say, with pre-orders and the vouchers and so on and so forth. Now, I also know that you're very much hand in hand, very active in the retail space, especially F&B, especially with different businesses that are very retail-oriented businesses. Now, what kind of advice would you give to retail? Because for sure, a lot of them are already crying at home, and a lot of these business owners, they are fighting this war alone.
Yep. So when this whole crisis took place, the first thing I did was I contacted my friends in China. These guys are business owners, small, medium business owners in China, and asked them, hey, how did you guys pull through this very difficult period? So if you know China compared to Malaysia, the biggest difference is their infrastructure. For them to go e-commerce, for them to do food delivery, it is very mature. Unlike Malaysia, we are still at the infant stage of this whole, even our cashless payment, we are still at infant stage. So a lot of them who are able to go online is also because they have that kind of infrastructure. But what I was most interested is, hey, how about those guys who provide services like aesthetic clinic? How do an aesthetic clinic that does plastic surgery survive in this period of time? So I managed to contact a very good friend of mine. She runs an aesthetic clinic in Beijing. And I asked her, hey, how are you doing? And she told me that at this point of time, she's not even talking about making a lot of money. Her focus is how do you stay alive? So I asked her, how do you stay alive? And she told me that at this point of time, she stopped burning. On the first month, yes, she burned money. She still had to pay her salaries and her rental. But at this point of time, she managed to have her monthly expenses taken care by the business. And I said, how do you provide delivery of plastic surgery then? And she said, no. She said, I didn't provide delivery of plastic surgery. But what she did was she started to create all these WeChat groups that teaches people on how do you stay beautiful in this period of time. And then what she would do is she would then have her doctors to conduct a webinar on WeChat, and then they would teach them on how to stay beautiful. And then she would do two things. She said, you either give them a product which is cheap as a tripwire, okay, or you provide them with an irresistible offer of vouchers. So example, if they buy $10,000 of voucher, okay, they only need to pay $4,000 at this point of time. So it's an irresistible offer. So what she does is she then bundles the product with the voucher, because at this point of time, you will make sure one thing, you will make sure two things. You will make sure that at this point of time, your business can bring cash flow. And at the same time, you have to understand, like what Desmond just said, after the crisis, people are going to tighten the belt. They won't spend as much as they used to. How do you make sure they continue to come back to your shop after the crisis? So what she's doing is she is having these strategies where product and the voucher now to bring in the money. And after the crisis, when they come over and use the voucher, that's where she'll upsell to her core offer. And then that's where she'll upsell to her profit maximizer. Right? So in my opinion, this is a very good strategy, especially at this point of time. How do you create all these tripwires to get them coming? to create cash flow, and at the same time, you're able to provide your main offering after the crisis.
I like that a lot. What I see the difference between the esthetician and the rest of the business owners that are crying wolf or crying whatever, playing victim on social media, is the fact that she is a proactive entrepreneur. Like, she's not sitting down and hope that the economy revives itself or hope that the government, throw money at her. But she's going out there and being proactive and pivoting her business, as you say, one of your P's, to using technology, which is contactless, which is through the web, very similar to a lot of things as well. So I like that. In fact, I'll share a story about that because you're talking about esthetician now. One of the beauty salons that we are actually stocking, in a way that stocking, like we're about to acquire this company, what they're doing is that they cannot perform any facial spas, they cannot perform any medical, any services cannot be provided right now because it's very much based on touching. And the last thing they want to do is to freak their customers out. So they cannot sell packages because their packages was quite high ticket, and they cannot sell the same packages, but they can offer discounts, as you just said. But one thing they did very smart was that they started creating beauty products. Okay, they were doing this a long time ago, but their products has not been their main focus because the margin has been very low. But what they were doing was that they bundled together a bunch of their skincare routine. They got a Monday, they got a Tuesday, they got a Wednesday, they got a Thursday, and every single day they got a morning, afternoon, and evening. And so what they will do is that they'll sell the product and then they'll ship it directly to the particular customers that they have. And they're not looking at finding new customers at all. They are just calling the customers that they already have. Hey, Miss Tan, you came 2 months ago. Just because there's this crisis doesn't mean that you should not continue to take care of your skin. You shouldn't stop doing your routine. We have this little package. It's for the next 14 days. Every day you got 3. Every day you got 3 routines that you need to do. We have packaged everything in a way that you just need to open on Monday morning and then you apply on Monday morning. Monday afternoon you open, you just apply. And then they'll just sell that. And then they turn it into a subscription model in a way that if this MCO, movement control order, gets extended for another 14 days, no problem for them because they just call every single one of the customers that order and say, you want to renew your subscription? Because they have designed it just for MCO. That's how quickly they are able to adapt the business. And all of this was done in literally just 24 hours. So what I'm trying to say is that the businesses that will survive and thrive are the businesses that are proactive and adapting themselves to the situation. The businesses that are not doing anything and hoping that things will change, they will never, ever, ever get out of this alive. So a few more questions that I would like to push to you is, cutting expenses. Right now, this morning, I was watching a video by Grant Cardone. I just heard that he just cut out about 40 people from his enterprise. So I want to talk about cutting people out of the company because a lot of people think that this is a very tough thing to do, number one. And number two, it's much more tougher for small business owners because many times employees are like family members. They are very close with them. And how do you approach this? Because the emotional part of it, and every time you do this for a company, you automatically become the devil because everyone is going to look at you, oh, the business owner is the bad guy because he is the person that fired me. She is the person that fired me, right? So why don't you give a little bit of your thoughts about this?
I think the first thing is before you have to fire, at this point of time, probably you want to reduce salary first. And the first person you want to reduce salary is yourself. And then to show to the top management that you yourself is reducing salary first, you walk the talk. And then later on, if things persist to go on, we foresee that it will persist to go on, that's where you will start to talk to your top management about the possibility of reduction of salary. Some companies go to them and go into what we call the unpaid leave. And some people go to their staff, they ask their staff to continue to work, but they give company shares. But to me, that's a bad choice. That's a desperate choice. Don't do that. Given an option. Some people go to their staff and ask them to possibly to continue working, but they will continue. They only pay their salaries on installment basis. So it really depends on what kind of situation you are in right now, and then different types of strategies that you can apply. But in my opinion, that at this point of time, you got to understand that in your business, if you got to let go, you got to let go. And for me, I like to categorize stuff into what I call A, B, C, D category. So I have an axis where I talk about the performance and also their core values. Are they aligned to us? Those that can't perform, totally different core values, they are the D players first to go, right? those who can perform, but different core values, they are the C players. They're the second to go. Those who have the core values but can't perform, I call them the B players. I put them B because, in my opinion, if core values and attitude is right, but they can't perform yet, if your attitude is right, you still can train them, right? So these are the B players. They are the third to go. And of course, if really no choice, those who can perform and good core values, the A players, if they got to go, we just have to let them go. Yeah, so that's my formula of letting people go.
It's always tough because as a business owner, the last thing you want to do is let people go. But if the ship sank, everyone on the ship is gonna die. So the ship must be saved first. I always believe in that. And more importantly, I'll just throw in a few more strategies that for people listening that can actually use this as well. One of the things that when we look at a company, they are often overemployed. What we do is that we convert what John just mentioned as D players into performance-based first. What we will do is that we'll slowly phase them into performance-based, let them provide value for the company. And if they don't provide value from the company, they know themselves, I'm looking at my performance salary slip right now, I realize that I've not been performing. At least they have numbers to sort of tell them that you're not performing enough. So that's either going to push them to be C, B, A player, or it's going to push them out of the company. It's either or, right? And I think that's something that you can plan out to do. But another thing that I want to discuss, which is very serious, is I want to talk about AirAsia Malaysia Airlines situation. For those of you who do not know, the travel industry has gone through like a massive hit in a way that airlines are losing a ton of money. Liquidity is a huge issue for them. But here's the thing: they've sold the airline tickets, right? Not everybody wants a refund because now they can no longer travel out or in of the country. Right? So if you are, let's say, Tony Fernandez, or you are Malaysia Airlines CEO, what would you do with so many customers right now coming to you asking for cancellation refunds?
Wow, that's a very tough question. Personally, I've bought the AirAsia 499 package, the bonus package.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. At the same time, I've also bought their stocks.
Wow.
Especially if you know AirAsia stock has plummeted from 340 to right now, as we speak, 62 cents, right? For most countries, if they're airlines, at this point of time, they are going to their country's government to seek for a bailout, to seek for help. And I'm very sure in time to come, the banks will be doing the same thing as well. So at this point of time, I think the airlines have already gone to MOF, the Ministry of Finance. The four airlines, notably MES, Firefly, Malindo, and also AirAsia, they really went to MOF to seek for help. I do foresee if Malaysia is capable to, they might bail them up.
Okay, but what if you're a small business owner? I'm just using that as a context, as an example to compare parallel. Let's say you are a business that sells, let's say you're a travel agency and you already sold the packages to Japan, to Korea, to US, whatever it is. And then now all the customers are calling you, hey, refund, cancel. What would you do? And you know if you refund your cash, because we talk about importance of preserving the cash flow in the bank account, having cash in a bank account. So what would you do if you're a small business owner and your customers are calling you every single day asking for money back?
Why not I speak from my personal experience, because that's what my company is going through as well. I'll share my personal experience. So at this point of time, we have few events that we have to fulfill within the next 1 month. And if we do not do anything about it, we definitely have to refund, right? So at this point of time, when the whole crisis took place, one of the things that I had to do, I'm forced to do, is I'm forced to go online. Speaking to thousands of people has never been a problem, but speaking to one camera has always been my biggest challenge. So one of the reason why you've been seeing me on webinar is because I'm really practicing. I'm really getting online. For the past 1 week plus, my team has been learning about this whole e-learning and learning management systems. What I'm taking, my step is to create whatever training that I'm doing to go online, to create an online program first. So that at this point of time, while I may not be able to fulfill the offline events, I can have my participants to attend the online session first. So that after the crisis, I then can able to fulfill the actual product. So I think at this point of time, businesses, I can't speak for the travel airlines and all because I'm not really experienced there. But for me, it has to be coming up with a contingency plan. to make sure that you can solve the issue of clients asking for refunds. Because at this point of time, clients will definitely want refunds because cash is king, right? So your job is to stop that from happening by being able to provide that value. And then after this crisis, you give them the core offer. Which is what you're supposed to offer. But maybe, Desmond, you may have some thoughts on this, on what is best. I would like to hear from you as well.
Well, we had an issue with this as well. Our fulfillment, we had a 3-day event last weekend that we had to cancel. 2 weeks ago, was it? That had to be canceled. And the main reason was because the MCO take into effect and hotels are closed and we cannot conduct the event. We had, over the last 7 days before the event is supposed to begin, we had over, I think, 15 to 20 people that wanted to postpone, right? Very fortunate to us is that not many people are asking for refund. A lot of people are actually asking for postponement. And the main reason is because we send them a lot of orientation training. So they know that they haven't had the time to watch them. So they feel really good postponing it instead of asking for a refund. But right now we are just communicating with those people that are just seeking refund. And those people that are really seeking for refund are not many. But the ones that come to us for those, they usually are in a very fear-based emotion. They are not thinking logically anymore. They are just making up things. So what we do is that a lot of time we will just talk to them and say, hey, listen, what's the outcome that you want to get? And if they say the outcome, let's say with a travel agency, I would assume that the outcome is that they want to bring their family to go on a holiday, to go and maybe snowboard or ski, so on and so forth, right? What if you're able to tell them, listen, we're going to postpone the entire thing, okay? What we're also going to do is I will add on an additional bonus if you decided to stay with us, but instead of skiing in April, you're going to be skiing in December when all of this are over, right? And then also please be honest with that. I think one of the things that people need to know is you have to tell them, listen, I'm sure you read in the news already, 10% of businesses and small businesses are going through a lot of issues, cash flow management issue. A lot of businesses are going to be out of the business. You need to be transparent, let them know our business is not doing so well. Let them know, listen, we cannot afford for you to refund because it will collapse our business. If you still want to go ahead, I respect that, but bear in mind that means I might have to lay off a couple more people. So you put the guilt on them, which is true because what you're saying is really the truth. Because when they drain your cash flow, what's going to happen is you have no choice but to cut expenses, and the payroll expenses usually is the highest expense out of the entire, expense list. So a lot of time we will just tell the customer, listen, you asking for a refund right now is going to result in this. Okay, but if you can reconsider, give me another 30 days to reconsider, and then we see what happens. Then we can work it out, right? Or if you must get a refund, we will work on an installment basis. It's sort of like buying stuff on installment, but this time you're paying out on installment. You let them know, listen, our company, frankly speaking, you are not the only one asking for a refund. And if I say yes to you, the 10 more will say yes, and then what happens is that our company closed down tomorrow. And what happened is that 50, 60 people who sign up for something will never get what they want. So it's very unfair. So I had to make the right decision as a whole. It's a very tough decision for me. So what I've decided is, since you really, really need your refund back, what I would arrange with you is some sort of installment. Every month, I will pay you back. Let's say you pay, to make math simple, 10,000 ringgit, $10,000 to get something from us, a package like a tourist package. Maybe I pay you 1,000 every month for the next 10 months. And then if they say no, I will make a second offer where I will say, listen, I understand you want a lump sum of the cash right now, but we cannot afford it. But what I could do for you is maybe I can give you some sort of interest. Let's say the bank's fixed deposit interest is 4% right now, okay? I will pay you 5%. So every month I'll top up 5% on top of the 1,000 that is being paid back to you. And then in 10 months time, not only you get back your entire amount, you also get a profit out of it, 5% profit out of it. This is the best thing that I can do for you. If you cannot do this, then I don't know what else can be done for you. So this is the way to negotiate. At the end of the day, during crisis like this, I believe that there's going to be a lot of negotiation with the supplier. There's going to be a lot of negotiation with your landlord. There's going to be a lot of negotiation with your customers, because people become a lot more selfish during this time, where they only care about their own, their own nest, their own, birds, their own, their babies. Which I get it, but it doesn't solve the thing. As you know, stock market only goes down because consumer confidence goes down, and that's because of the fear base that's happening. So my response to that is try to figure out a solution with the customer that can create a win-win situation, but you defer the payment out as long as possible. That is the only way to engineer this thing into a success for your company, because if you fail to negotiate this, unfortunately, then you have to lay off an employee. So your mindset have to be like this. If I have to refund one person, I have to fire one person that is a lot closer to me. So you choose which one you want to go to. Most people will take the easy route and just refund because they hate negotiating, they hate talking to people. But this is where entrepreneurs shine. This is where, whether you are a real entrepreneur or not, this is when the time is to show off now. If you say that you're an entrepreneur, but you can't even negotiate, I'm sorry, you're not an entrepreneur. You're just another guy that think on being entrepreneur is cool, and then you just start doing business because you think it's cool, right? So I think this is the time to really prove yourself. So I don't want to keep staying at this topic. I want to talk about a little bit something that is a lot more important, which is got to do with, if we talk about operations already, I want to make sure that all my notes are covered. So let's talk about cash, okay? I want to talk a little bit about cash right now. We talk about, it's good to take debt as long as the interest is low. We talk about preserving cash in a bank account. So another thing is that there are companies, they are more contract-based. So for example, a construction company that have been contracted by a property developer to help them build, let's say something like a security guard house or something like that, right? But they have not gotten paid yet, and the property developer are not paying them right now. So what should they do? They already fulfill the service. They already take out the cost and paid for the service. They already built the house or the whatever, where the security guard sits. Now the property developer, they have already invoiced the developer, but they have not received the money yet. What can they do to collect the cash?
I think at this point of time, right, chasing money is an option, but this is what the hardest time for you to collect back your cash. And you still need cash to survive. So one of the things, my view is, for businesses like that, you have to look into how can you innovate with a new product offering, especially at this point of time. I'll give you an example. One of my friends who runs a hotel in Malacca. And right now what he's offering is, because his staff is all there, he has all these staff, all these cleaners. But what he's doing is he's actually converting his cleaners for his hotel to become cleaners for home, to sanitize and disinfect homes once this crisis is over. So by creating a new product offering like this, his marketing team can sell something, and at the same time they can bring in the cash first. So in my view, I've not experienced having a student of mine who is in contractor business yet, but in my view, very similar like this hotel business, you want to look into what can you do with these resources that you have to provide your expertise to a very different kind of market need, especially at this point of time, right? Because your key is how do you bring in the money first.
Okay, so I've got one last question for you, John. I think this is gonna be a mind breaker, I call it, which is gonna really, your ears are gonna bleed because there's so much brain power needed to answer this question. Now that I hype it up so much, let me just ask you this, imagine this is 3 years ago. We are in 2017. Okay, you time travel back to 2017, right? But with the condition that you cannot buy stock and you must use your power for good, right? You must basically use this power to alert the businesses around you. What would you tell the business owners in 2017, knowing that 2020 there will be this COVID-19, oil price is going to be going crazy, there will be an oil war, there will be a China trade war, right? Knowing all of this, 2017, now that you have 50 business owners in front of you, what would you tell them?
Well, in fact, right, I've been telling this since 2018, that every 10 years, there's always a financial crisis. The financial world, the business world always works in seasons. You have seasons of ups and then you have seasons of winter. And I always believe that this has always been a 10-year crisis. I expected it in 2018. So to be very frank, I have been telling this in my seminars that be prepared for this 10-year crisis, because I was expecting it in 2018. I started taking a more defensive route in 2018 itself. 2019, the crisis didn't come. So when 2020, the thing came, I was quite excited initially because the prediction came true. Unfortunately, the people who are close to me, they suffered because most of them are unprepared for this. So I think this is something I've been talking about, the 4 seasons.
So what can they do to prepare? What can they do to prepare? Like, I know winter is coming, so you prepare a jacket. What would be a jacket for business?
Well, in terms of winter, it's just like the real winter, when winter is coming, what you want to do is you want to prepare more food. You want to prepare to go more defensive so that you can have more food. But in business, the only difference is at the point of time, when you know that winter is coming, you prepare more cash, right? Cash is king. You wanna look into which are the very good businesses, and you spot them. You want to put them into your watch list first. I have a lot of companies in my watch list. I invest a lot into the stock market in Malaysia, and this is the time where you want to be more aggressive, because when the market is fearful, Warren Buffett said, right, when the market is fearful, you gotta be greedy. So at this point of time, you notice there's a lot of good companies. If I talk about the stock market, companies like Nestle, these are companies where even in crisis, people eat more Maggi mee, right? People drink more Milo at home. But the stock price has been crashing. So this is the time when you want to start acquiring a lot of these assets. And after this crisis, the crisis will be over. Just like every crisis, one day someone will find a cure for this virus. And we are living in a time where technology is growing in such an exponential rate. I believe that the next person who finds this solution to this crisis is not only a person, but is potentially in a collaboration with an AI. So I believe the crisis will be over. And once the crisis is over, these good businesses, they will rebound. And that's where a lot of fortunes are made. Fortunes are made in times of crisis, not in good times. And just like for you business owners, the true character of you as a leader is not shown in good times, but it's in times like crisis like this. How do you negotiate? How do you innovate? How do you pivot your business? Right? This is the time where you will display leadership.
Right. One of my mentor always tell me this: every fool can make money in a bull market, but only a genius can make money in the bear market. I think opportunities are out there. The way I'm seeing it, as long as you don't stay home and watch Netflix 24/7, but be out there through social media, of course, right? Go and sense what are the opportunities that are out there, what are people buying, what are people talking about, and you'll be surprised, just by going out there talking to your business network, which is why we talk about building business network. Is very important, because you cannot be alone in this journey. I've known business owners that are alone in this journey right now. They are going into depression. They do not know what to do. They're crying every night at home and nobody can hear their cries. Their family don't understand them. Their employees don't understand them. Their friends don't understand them. So it's very important to take this opportunity to go online and network with similar business owners and share ideas and see how we can collaborate together. One of the things I often share is that the easiest marketing that you can do is, if you own a hair salon and then you have a nail salon next to you, instead of seeing them as competitor, work together, because you all share the same customer, but you offer different services. Ask yourself how you can promote each other and cross-sell each other. Because you cannot, I think promoting and doing marketing right now without having a ton of cash in your bank account is going to be impossible. Too many people are calling me, John. Too many people are calling me asking about social media marketing right now. And I already told them, if you don't have big amount of money in your bank account right now, don't do it. Because it's not the time for trial and error right now. It's not the time to test right now, right? You want to make sure every single thing that you do costs nothing, but make sure it brings something, even if it's small, right? John, how can my audience, or how can the people that are listening to this find out more about you?
Well, contact me on my social media, Jonathan Quek. Check out my company's Facebook. It's called Owner Circle. In fact, just before this talk with you, I just had what I call a business community forum with my members, where 50 business owners came together and we discussed two things. One is, how do you manage your cash flow in this period of time? Number two, what are other opportunities that we are looking at that suddenly got a rise in this crisis? And imagine 50 business owners coming together talking about opportunities. You can imagine the kind of vibe that we are having.
That's a mastermind right
there. Who you
there.
play with. Yeah, that's a mastermind. I imagine this is the kind of time where we can have a mastermind of 50 packs at one go. Because if I were to ask people to do this a year ago, ask them to come on the Zoom call, they will say, why can't we meet physically? I want to connect with you physically. But this is and if I were to do physical mastermind, 50 people, there's no way I can do that. But because today, the opportunity is such that people are forced to, this is the new norm. This business unusual is the new usual. We can do things like this. We can do 50 packs coming together in Zoom calls and doing masterminds together. I got so much ideas for my students today. So guys, my suggestion is like what Desmond say, be very careful on what are the things you're looking at in YouTube, in Facebook. You will be very selective right now. I'm avoiding my mom's voice messages because she's forwarding me all these aunties who is saying, hey, this is happening, that's happening. Suddenly there's so many aunties that is economic and health expert, right? Yeah, you want to look at the right messages. You want to look at opportunities. You want to look at solutions. You don't look at fear. You don't look at panic. You want to block them off. All right, and keep close to people like Desmond. Keep close to experts who really know what they're really talking, and they are solution focused. So this is more crucial than ever to really build your character and test your character.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. I learned a lot today on this call with you, and I think the audience are going to learn a lot too. So guys, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you check out Jonathan's company, Owners Circle, and Jonathan's name, Jonathan, like normal Jonathan, Quek, Quek. Make sure you write that down. Check him out. He has a lot of good content. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for jumping on today's call.
Thank you so much, Desmond. It's been a pleasure.